The Lifestyle Show, presented by Selina MacKenzie.
We're going to be discussing a royal autobiography now, with stories featuring Queen Elizabeth II, King Charles III, and more. Here to tell us about his book, The Royal Butler. Welcome to the show, Grant Butler. Grant Harrold. I've put you down as Grant Butler. I thought to myself, that doesn't sound right. Grant Harrold. Wouldn't that be a great surname, though?
I know. I love the idea of being Butler, but it's really interesting because a lot of people actually who don't know my name, Grant, because I work on the cruise ships a lot, and I'm obviously billed on there as the Royal Butler, and a lot of people come up and call me Mr. Royal Butler. So weirdly, it's become the kind of the norm.
Oh, bless you. Apologies for that. So, have you always wanted to work with royalty? Does this stem from your childhood?
So when I was a child, I was quite a strange little boy because most of my friends love football and rugby and, these kind of things. And my goal, my focus was I wanted to become a member of the royal family. And that's a memory that goes back to when I was about 12, 13 years old. And prior to that, I wanted to live in as most of us probably do, I wanted to live in a castle or a palace. And so much so I even wrote to the owner of a castle in Scotland, Glamis Castle, which is actually, if anyone knows Glamis, it's the late Queen Elizabeth. It's her grandparents' family home because she was half Scottish. And the castle is in the Strathmore family. And I wrote to the late Dowager, who sadly passed a few months ago, and asked if I could buy her castle when I was 13. And luckily she said no, but we can be friends. And later on, she was my reference for when I did go to work for the now king.
Ah, and when you first started out, was you working for the now king as a prince then? How did it all start?
Yeah, it's very confusing. It gets so confusing now because he was Prince of Wales, and obviously William was Prince William of Wales, and Harry was Prince Harry of Wales, and of course you had the late Queen Elizabeth II. And it's becoming a little bit confusing because, now when I talk about working for the Prince of Wales, everyone thinks I'm referring to William, which I did work for William and Catherine, but obviously that was when they were just only just, but, she was Kate Middleton and he was Prince William and the father was the prince. So it's become a little bit confusing, but I've been very lucky that I've got to work for all the kind of senior members of the family.
Wow. And what's an interview process like? Do you see them for an interview or do you have to see somebody else?
My interview process was quite interesting. It went on for 6 months. It was 6 months of up and down to London meeting different people. And then I was told the last interview was to be with him himself. He has to pick you. He has to like you. And I remember, being rather apprehensive about the whole situation. And then I got the sad news not long before I was due to have that meeting, probably about a week before, that he couldn't see me because they didn't have anyone else for me to go up against. And they wanted him to have a choice of 2 or 3 butlers, and there was no other butlers. So they said, we're going to have to delay it. And I remember saying, well, I'm terribly sorry. I can't wait because I'm very busy, which is quite a weird thing for a 25-year-old butler to say. But anyway, I think I was so excited. I didn't want to have to wait. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to kind of just move on. And the voice was quite short and said, oh, well, we wish you well with your career and this kind of thing. And then about an hour later, she phoned back and said, well, actually, we've conveyed your message to His Royal Highness. And he was asked if you can still see him next week. So I got to see him. And I remember thinking, I think I've just blackmailed the Prince of Wales into seeing me. But he did see me and we got on. And luckily, at the end of it, he gave me an indication that he may take me on. And then a few days later, I got the official invitation, asked me to join his household.
And were you nervous when you met him for the first time?
Yeah, I was. I wasn't initially, but when I was in the room before I met him, it was a little sitting room just off from the butler's pantry, and there was a painting of him on the wall, and that's when I got nervous because I suddenly thought, wow, I'm going to meet this really famous guy, and and I don't want to get it wrong. So I was slightly nervous at that point, definitely.
It's not surprising. I would be too.
I think that's the thing. People get so nervous when they meet them, and that's when things go wrong. That's when you have people kind of falling over or not knowing what to say or not showing a bit bowing and courtesying and all this kind of thing. So it's quite funny when you see it going to happen because I've been there. I know what it's like.
And are you told what to do? Are you told how you have to bow and that you do have to bow or not walk backwards out of the room or etiquette?
They kind of do and don't. On the interview, they did actually give me some guidance as to what to do. But when I started, they didn't. I remember my first day in Scotland with him, and they didn't quite explain what to do, and it was a little bit awkward because when I did see him and the now Queen Camilla, they were at the end of this corridor, and because I didn't know what to do, I panicked and went into this room on this long corridor. As I talk about this in the book, and I say I dived into this room, but it wasn't a room; it was a drinks cupboard, and I didn't know it was a drinks cupboard. And I thought, he'll never know it's a drinks cupboard, and he'll probably walk past and not even know I'm in there. And the next thing I heard him outside the door asking what I was to Camilla, saying, I wonder what he's doing in the drinks cupboard. And it was so embarrassing. Maybe he's having a little drink, kind of joking. And then I walked out, and the two of them couldn't stop laughing. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing then. So I learned on the job the kind of what to do and what not to do. And then what I would do is if, say, you came to meet him, I would on the quiet give you some pointers.
Oh, wonderful. And what was he and Camilla like back then as individuals? I mean,
wonderful.
I imagine they're very traditional, certainly him, but they always seem to be giggling. Whenever we see them on TV, they seem to be having a titter together.
This is the whole point of, this book. They do. They're wonderful. They're very fun. They're down to earth. Now, I've got to tell you, so I was asked many years ago to do several times to do a book. And I kept saying no, because quite simply, you've just nailed it on the head. I wanted to talk about the humour side. I want to talk about what we're getting to see. We've got to see it with Queen Elizabeth towards the end of her life, the comedy, the fun side. And no member of staff ever talks about that. It's always if I'm honest, it's always the salacious, it's always the gossip, it's always the bad stuff. And I thought my experiences were so good and it was so much fun and pinch me moment. And wow, did that happen? And when I tell these stories to my friends, to family on cruise ships, the feedback was amazing. People get saying, why don't you do a book on this? And I was amazed that when my wonderful publisher approached me and amazingly had heard this feedback and said, look, why don't we do a book on what they're really like from the fun side of life? And I jumped at the chance because this book mainly focuses on the fun side. And as you just said, we get to see that. You see the two of them giggling and laughing. And I talk about that throughout it and give examples of the kind of silly things used to go on. And some of the stories, I've had some great messages and people saying it's the funniest thing. They didn't even know they were that funny. And I'm thinking, this is what's great. We are getting to see more and more of it, which shows you how they're becoming very modern in their approach.
Yeah. I think there's enough been done, hasn't there, on all the arguments with Harry and William?
I think so.
We don't need to keep hearing about that.
I do you know what? Also, just to mention, the press. I've been very lucky. There's been a lot of media around the book, and there's been a couple of things that have come out about me, contradicting Harry. And I've always said, in fact, I was with some journalists yesterday. I said, make it very clear. I'm not trying to contradict Harry. I'm not trying to say that his book, his views are wrong. All I know is that when his book came out, my book had already been, I believe it or not, had already been done. It's all kind of been put together. And so my memories and his memories are obviously quite different. And that's where the late Queen made that wonderful comment, which is so true. Can't you say the word? Recollections may differ. and it's so true. But, we all, in life, in what we do, we all have different views on certain situations, and everyone's take is different. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us unique. So, as I stress, I'm not trying to say that his views are wrong. All I'm saying is that my experiences and his experiences and the next person's experiences are all quite different. But it's been quite nice being able to kind of talk about, those memories. And people are liking the fact that the boys got on, the father got on, the Queen got on with them, they got on with the Queen. And that's what I remember. I just remember a big happy family.
I'm sure you did back then. And I read something from your book as well that you said nice things about both William and Harry. Apparently, Harry, when you first joined the job, knew that you'd moved in, so offered you to get you some food.
Yes, offered me a takeaway.
Oh,
I remember that. Do you know what was fun doing this book? It brought back so many memories and things that I'd kind of forgot about. But yeah, Harry knew I was new and was worried I didn't have any food, so offered a takeaway. And I declined the offer of the takeaway, but I sat and had, where he had his takeaway. But it was innocent. And I remember I was quite taken aback by it because being quite new and everything, I didn't quite, known William and Harry, and of course growing up with the rest of the world watching William and Harry, to suddenly be with them and be in a situation where they're offering you a takeaway and sitting down with television on, having watching them have a takeaway. It was very, immediately it was quite like, wow, this is great, this is comfortable, and it was like that throughout my time there.
I still think that's got a lot to do with Diana's influence. I can't imagine Prince Charles when he was that age doing that. What do I know? It's only how I imagine it. But she had a very good influence on them being normal.
She did. So, and the other thing I've mentioned in the book, which is, what I've tried to do is I'm really not trying to give too much information. I think that of course they deserve their privacy, and they do deserve, I'm lucky that I'm given the position to work for them. So what I've tried to do in this book is reflect stories that I don't think they were mine, the ones that are already out there, or stories that I think are important in their defence, because they won't speak up. And the one thing I'll say, I agree with you, Diana was a big influence. But what always makes me sad is people come up to me and say, oh, but it was awful at the end, and how awful, in the fallout, and the fact he didn't, the king didn't care, and Camilla hated, and all this kind of thing. And I'm having to kind of go against that and say, look, I'm not want to break confidence, and I don't go into the details of exactly how or why I know this, but I know that Diana was hugely respected by the king and Camilla. I'm talking about after, because remember there was a divorce. I wasn't there then. There was a divorce and everything at the time. But what you didn't see was what went on for that year or so, sadly, before she died. And I think definitely, they say time's a healer, and I think relations were moving in a really positive way for all of them. And I saw evidence of that when I joined, and it showed me that, they were definitely, can I say, getting on? No question about it. Yeah. And the king, his memory of her definitely went on and on and on. And there was things around that. What I'm trying to say, she didn't disappear. She definitely didn't disappear, which was lovely to see. And you're right, her influence definitely had a big impact, not just on the boys. I think in the royal family in general. Actually, I think the modern. The way they are now, I mean, God, I saw the king do a wonderful thing a few months back where he fist bumped somebody, which is what Diana would have done. And we'd never seen him do that 20 years ago. Yeah. And I think this is definitely the boys' influence on him as well. And it's making him a very, very, very approachable, very modern, even though he's traditional, but a very modern monarch, alongside his beautiful Queen Camilla, who I absolutely adore.
Did you go to their wedding, Grant?
I did. And I shouldn't have gone to the wedding because I'd been there long enough.
Oh.
And because the date was announced, I was on duty and he didn't tell me. It was ever so funny. I didn't know anything about it. And then as, got announced and the invitations came in, I was aware that I wasn't going. And then I got a phone call 2 weeks before from the kind of, it was the treasurer, I think was the title of this chat, to inform me that the king and Miss Packer Bowles were aware that I wasn't allowed to go. But under friends and family, they can invite people, and they're going to invite me under that title, under friends and family. And I was so excited to think that I was seen as a member of the family. I thought, wow, I've made it. But I felt very lucky to be invited, very lucky.
That's nice. They obviously thought of you as a friend or part of the family.
They did, yeah. They did. You were there to do a job, but they did. There was definitely, you built up a relationship, a bond with them. Yes, as employer and employee, but it was more than that. It's so different. When I think of my friends that work for different organisations or companies, and you get the boss and whatever. And yes, as you know, you go to Christmas parties and you socialise sometimes and that kind of thing. But it's very different in the royal household because these are people that you're around, not just in the day, in the evenings, even overnights, traveling, when you're in other countries or, so you spend a lot of time with them and you get to know them as well as your own family. And it's an amazing, it's a working relationship, 100%, but it's an amazing working relationship where there is a sort of friendship. It's a very strange one because they're not your friends, but yet they are your friends. But you're aware that when you leave, that it was a purely working relationship,
I suppose it's like with any job. I mean, with a 9-to-5 job, you spend so much time with your colleagues, probably more so with your family. But with you, like you say, it was evenings as well.
So it was long days, and it was always fun. It was always fun, and I enjoyed being around them. And I used to get quite excited actually, when I used to kind of be, even after a year. I mean, it took a while to get used to it and get over the shock of being in the presence of the king, the now Queen, the late Queen Elizabeth, Prince Philip. William and Harry was a bit quicker because we were similar ages, and that was a lot easier actually because they were just kind of down tests. That didn't take long at all. But with the rest of them, obviously, it took a little bit longer just getting to know them all.
And what was it like the first time you met our late Queen?
Last time I met the late Queen, there was a lot of fuss with the late Queen. First time I met her, I was on horseback.
Oh.
I was out on the Balmoral estate, exercising her ponies, weirdly, with some of the military personnel. And I remember looking down because something was scaring the ponies, and I thought it was rats, but it wasn't rats, it was corgis. But initially I thought it was rats because I was shouting there's rats. And on closer inspection, I saw there was a lady standing to the side, and it was the Queen with the rats. It was ever so funny, and luckily she had a little giggle. And I suddenly was like, "Oh, beautiful corgis!" Quickly backtracking, very quickly backtrack. I didn't want to go to Tower London, and then the first time I was introduced to her was by the King introduced me to her at Kew Palace. That was quite extraordinary. A dinner at Kew Palace where he actually did the official introduction to her, which was amazing to think the Prince of Wales introduced me to his mother, the Queen, which, normally it'd be a member of staff that would introduce you. So that was quite a big thing. And then, over the years got to know her. But then, of course, there was that famous dance that I got to do with her, which is what the book is the essence of this dance is throughout the book, how it opens and starts talking about this particular evening up in Scotland. And that dance was a big thing for me because as a kid, that's all I wanted to do was have the chance to dance with Queen Elizabeth. Yeah. And as many people will know, I did get to dance with her, and the story is about how that came true. And even now, in fact, the Gillies Ball, which is what it's called, will be happening any day now. And every year I always remember this time of the year when I was at Balmoral Castle getting to fulfill my dream.
Do you have a photo of that? I'm assuming there are photographs in the book.
No, there's photos in the book. There's some photos in the book, but of that, there's one of me and the Queen, but there's not one of the Gillies Ball. And quite simply, 20 years ago, it was actually 20 years ago in fact, weirdly, the anniversary of me dancing with the Queen was exactly 20 years ago now, which is a really bizarre, just weird timing. But back 20 years ago, I'm sure as you might agree, mobile phones were not like how they are now. Yeah. And we didn't have them. We had them, but you didn't do selfies were not a thing at all. And you would never dream of getting your phone and saying, somebody take a picture of me. And it just didn't happen. Yeah. So there's no photographic evidence. So all it is my colleagues and my own memories.
Oh, well, you've got those. When did you leave? I know you're doing talks on cruise ships now, and you've got the Royal School of Etiquette.
Yeah, I left in 2011, which is a few years back now, 14 years ago. But I left in 2011 because they were doing away with a lot of positions, getting ready for believe it or not, the death of Queen Elizabeth. They were preparing for her death and some to do cutbacks. And when I say cutbacks, they were relocating people, but I decided that rather than be relocated, I would do a full step back and focus on this career that I'm doing now, which, as you mentioned, is I've got a butler school and etiquette school, which is hugely successful, the etiquette school. I do a lot of talks on cruise ships. I get to travel the world, and I do a lot of television projects. I'm always appearing in different TV shows and different television programs, both in the UK and overseas. So I've built up quite a big social media presence, a bit over 1 million followers. So that's a full-time job now, which is fun. And it's great having this book out and be able to share some very special memories.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Well, for our listeners, we're selling the book on our website, TRE.radio. It's called The Royal Butler, My Remarkable Life of Royal Service. And it's by Grant Harrold, not Grant Butler, Grant Harrold, who we're chatting to now. If people want to find out about your etiquette school and a bit more about you, do you have a website as well?
I do. It's actually called the royalbutler.co.uk, but the easiest thing at the moment, it's amazing, thanks to all the media work at the moment, if you Google the Royal Butler, you get everything, you get all the links to just about everything you can imagine. But yeah, the royalbutler.co.uk is the website, and that's where I've got my etiquette, and also it's kind of only just been announced, but I'm doing something very, very special. There's a hotel in London that I'm working with, and I'm teaming up with a well-known hospitality company, shall I say. I'll let people obviously maybe kind of look it up, and it's what you can do. You can book these experiences, and I've agreed because my classes can be on the high end, for some clients, and some people say, "Oh, I wish I could do one of your classes." Well, suddenly it's going to become very affordable. In fact, completely affordable, because we're going to be doing these fun group sessions in London. As I say, through this hospitality company, very well known, and they're going to be promoting it. We're all going to be promoting it quite soon on my social media channels. So if people would like a fun little etiquette class very near Buckingham Palace, in fact, literally like a few steps from Buckingham Palace, you could come along and have a little fun class, a little afternoon tea class, and for you or your friends and family. So it's opening up to a lot more people, basically.
What a great idea! So we just put the Royal Butler into the search engine.
Absolutely, and you'll find, I'm sure, because as we start talking, because at the moment it's all booked just now, but very soon we'll start focusing on that as well. So there'll be lots of information out there about it.
Wonderful. Well, it's been great to chat to you. Thank you so much for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Grant Harrold, thank you. Bye-bye for now.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.